Let's get on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Alex Pitt, who writes, "Still waiting for the first truly great video game movie. I had been thinking that The Division stood a chance of breaking the curse, as it has amassed great talent such as Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain, and is being directed by David Leitch. However, I was watching the Ubisoft conference at E3, and they announced that they have partnered with Netflix. Suddenly this isn't looking so good. My question is simple. Does this spell trouble for how good of a film The Division can be?" All right, thanks a lot for the question. Now, for those of you who don't know clearly what it is he's talking about, we've got the big E3, the video game conference going on right now, and the developers of The Division, it was actually announced almost 3 years ago now, Rob. Almost 3 years ago. That they were making a Division movie. Jake Gyllenhaal was attached, Jessica Chastain, and then at some point they announced that John Wick director David Leitch was coming on to direct. Sounds great, and it's all been quiet since then. Until E3, when at the very, very, very last 10 seconds of their presentation about talking about the Division 2 and all this kind of stuff and the new seasons they have coming, blah, 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 and our movie's going to come out with Netflix. Good night, everybody. And then they kind of ran off stage. And it was a very, very sort of quick thing in there. Now, for those who don't know anything about The Division, it is a video game series. Here's the description of it that you can find. In the near future, a pandemic virus is spread via paper money on Black Friday, decimating the city of New York and killing millions. By Christmas, what's left of society has been descended into chaos. A group of civilians trained to operate in catastrophic times are activated in an attempt to save who and what remains. So that's kind of an overview. The best thing to do is just go get the game and sort of play it through. But it's an interesting concept. It's a Tom Clancy concept. Is The Division?
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it's a Tom Clancy property too. So that makes it intriguing as well. So anyway, as they mentioned in the topic, you had Jake Gyllenhaal attached. Great. Jessica Chastain attached. Great. And David Leitch. And by the way, David isn't just a John Wick guy. Look at what he's been amassing. Now, for most of his career, he's been a stunts coordinator, and he's been great at it. Then they kind of took the leap into directing with John Wick. But then he did Atomic Blonde, which I think is tragically underrated. I really like Atomic Blonde, and it might have, man, that one fight scene in there that going throughout the apartment, it might be one of the best hand-to-hand fight scenes I've ever seen in a movie. I love Atomic Blonde. Then, of course, he directed Deadpool 2. I thought he did a magnificent job with Deadpool 2. Now he's got Hobbs and Shaw coming out, which I'm very excited to see. So this is you got great on-camera talent with Jake and Jessica. You got great behind-the-camera talent with David, who's been amassing some really good stuff, and he seems like a really good fit for a property like this one specifically, Rob. But then the announcement comes. This thing's going straight to Netflix. Now, to me, hearing something is going to be going straight to Netflix generally elicits a Scooby-Doo, that was a terrible Scooby-Doo, by the way. Anyway, I get that, that kind of feeling, say, oh God, really? Straight to Netflix. Now, I just saw a Netflix original film in Always Be My Maybe that I actually quite enjoyed. So there's one. We know that Martin Scorsese has The Irishman coming. We've seen other films that were originally supposed to be going to theatrical release, then dumped on here, kind of like that Cloverfield movie that they did that ended up going straight to Netflix, and that thing was a piece of garbage. That movie was just terrible and awful. Usually when I hear it's going to go straight to Netflix, I have one of two thoughts, Rob. Either number one, this thing must be terrible. Or number two, hey, just one of the major distributors didn't feel that it could make money and be profitable. Maybe they looked at what happened to the most recent Tomb Raider, which was a pretty decent little film, and even that couldn't do money. They just did that Pokemon movie that everybody in the world loves Pokemon, and it didn't do all that great. I mean, it did well, but didn't do all that great. Maybe just a distributor didn't think it had anything to do with quality. Maybe they were just a little bit worried that it couldn't make money. Maybe that's it. Or maybe Netflix just made them one hell of a deal. Maybe Netflix just made them an offer they couldn't refuse. At this point, considering the behind the camera talent and in front of the camera talent, I'm not going to panic about it going straight to Netflix. We just don't have any kind of a clear picture about what was the story path that led us to this point where it went to Netflix. Because maybe it's for a great reason, maybe it's not for a great reason. So I'm not happy it's going straight to Netflix. but I'm not necessarily going to panic and jump overboard on it because it's going to Netflix either. Anyway, Rob, you saw all this kind of stuff. What are you thinking about The Division right now and the fact that it's going to be going to Netflix?
Well, it sounds to me like it's more of a series than a movie because it has a good premise. But okay, how are you going to put New York back together in the space of 90 minutes or 2 hours? After a pandemic has been, which I like the idea of tainting our money for Black Friday. So all of us, our most horrible consumer impulses are what lead to our downfall.
Yeah, there's something poetic about that.
I like that. But with that cast, if Jessica Chastain and Jake Gyllenhaal are still involved, good on them. I mean, I hope the movie's good. I think David Leitch his credits are such that why, when he has Hobbs and Shaw coming out for $1 billion franchise, would he want to go back and make a Netflix movie? Why wouldn't he want to stay making some big budget Hollywood theatrically released fare as much as he can? I mean, he's on a roll, and he between Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, and now Hobbs and Shaw, his quote's going up, and I'd be very curious to see if this movie ever actually happens with him at the helm, because I think he's got bigger fish to fry.
Well, I think he's probably contractually obligated at this point to do it. And so I'm thinking that they're probably going to move forward with it now that they're making announcements about it at E3. And it is 3 years. It's getting long in the tooth. They got to move on this thing quickly if they're going to be doing it. But because Gyllenhaal and Chastain aren't getting any more available. I mean, you got to move on this thing pretty quick if they're going to do it, but I got a feeling they will. Anyway, what did you guys think about this announcement about The Division going straight over to Netflix? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.